has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route. Stand by. From Houston Street onto Elm Street, the chief executive of the United States has expired. People running up the hill alongside Elm Street that came from behind the wooden fence. The Texas School Depository carrying a never action by voter of the Texas School Depository. Death and shot.
Of course, you've got 45 years of information, but to boil it all down, Kennedy was upsetting some of the most powerful and violent forces in this country. The CIA that he threatened to splinter into 1,000 pieces, the mafia, which he and his brother were attacking, and we now know, of course, that all of these groups were working with each other, particularly in the secret war against Castro. So it wouldn't have been a big thing to simply take their assassination teams and send them to Dallas. Now, why would they want to get rid of Kennedy? Well, he was going against a lot of the programs that they were all for. For example, it's my opinion he would have never allowed ground combat units in Vietnam. And he even told close friends that after the election he was going to withdraw U.S. troops from Vietnam. That would have curtailed a lot of the profit for the military-industrial complex. He also threatened to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. In other words, disband the CIA. He also was working through his Treasury Secretary to curtail the power of the Federal Reserve System. In fact, in June of 1963, he issued $6 billion in United States notes. The money issued through the U.S. Treasury, not through the Federal Reserve System, which is headed by a bunch of international bankers. I think the two fundamental points about the Kennedy assassination are, number one, who had the ability to strip him of normal security. In fact, when Fourth Army Intelligence called up the Secret Service, called up higher-ups and said, we're prepared to send a bunch of plainclothes agents to provide additional security, they were told to stand down. So who had the power to strip the normal security away from Kennedy? The other point, of course, has to do with the fundamentals of the assassination. If one bullet did not pass through Kennedy's body and strike Connally, causing 7 wounds to these 2 men, then obviously one person did not do the shooting. This is your 6.5 millimeter Mannlicher Carcano carbine, made during World War II for and by the Italians. They nicknamed it the humane weapon because it was notoriously inaccurate and you wouldn't kill anybody with it. The bolt is loose. It's basically a piece of junk. The lot that these rifles came into at the time of the assassination was in court in a civil suit because they said that the whole batch was defective. Right in the Warren Commission report, it states that when the Army Ballistic Test Center wanted to test this rifle for accuracy, they had to put 3 metal shims under the telescopic sight just to make it accurate enough to test. All right, I'm aiming at this building over here.
2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006.
Okay. I just about made it in the 6 seconds, but I guarantee you that last one, I squeezed the trigger off. I did not even have this huge building over there clearly in my sights. So I probably would have missed this building. And we're talking about aiming at a human figure 250 yards away, moving downhill laterally away from you with a tree intervening in the line of sight. If Oswald couldn't do the shooting, then we're into a whole new ballgame.
These are handwritten notes that my father wrote out for me while I was at his bedside, his hospital bedside in his home in Miami, Florida. He wrote these out over a period of a couple of days. Wow. Him discussing everything through his lengthy career in OSS and the 27 years he worked in the CIA, and then beyond that when he worked for Mullen and then the White House through Watergate, his time in prison, and after that. All right, well, this first document is it's a very basic chain of command. This is the first note that my father wrote to me. And at the top here, there's a box that says LBJ. Below, there's an arrow going to the next box that says Cord Meyer. Below, there's a line coming from Cord Meyer's box to the right that says Bill Harvey. To the left of that, and underneath Cord Meyer, it says David Morales. And below David Morales, it says French gunman Grassy Knoll.
It's interesting that the researchers have known for years about the possible involvement of E. Howard Hunt, Watergate burglar, CIA operative. But it is astounding that at the end of his life, he actually then began to confess to his involvement. And it's really amazing to me that the corporate mass media has not really picked up that story and disseminated it in any meaningful way.
The information that my father gave me, he talked about the original meetings of the conspiracy, of a conspiracy that they were hashing out at two different safe houses in Miami, was for a plot for Miami.
Right.
And the plot, you know, by the time, you know, things changed, it turned into Dallas. I don't know if it was the same cast of characters.
Well, let me tell you something, St. John. Apparently there were two previous plots. One in Chicago.
Oh, really?
That got scotched because one of the first black Secret Service agents, okay, somehow got word of that, and they knew that there was somebody was onto it, so that they canceled that one. The next one was scheduled for Miami, but again, apparently word leaked out. Somebody knew something was going to happen, and so they canceled the motorcade through Miami. So now we're getting towards the end of '63. It was the last
real
presidential
close to the election
trip. Yeah. Then you're going into the election year, 1964, which would have meant increased media coverage, increased security.
Yeah.
So that Dallas was kind of like their last opportunity.
Last chance. Huh?
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't have to be the one plot or the other plot or the mafia plot or the Cuban plot or the CIA plot. You know, right. I think there perhaps very well were several plots that may have not known about even each other.
Well,
and
that's what you want to do. You'd want to have those layers.
Yeah.
So if one didn't work,
right,
the other one might. Plus, nobody knows who else is doing it. Well, I understand your dad said that there was a Frenchman, French Corsican
yes,
involved.
Yes.
And it is interesting because we do have documents showing that the United States government had secreted a French agent out of Dallas that afternoon.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that.
And his name might have been Michael Mertz.
Really?
Yeah, I've got all those documents in my files. Again, this is hard leads that were never followed up.
Uh-huh.
Everybody on the western end of Dealey Plaza said the shots had come from behind that wooden picket fence on the Grassy Knoll.
That's right.
And of course, the House Select Committee determined that at least one shot did come from the knoll. In fact, it's amazing, but the last official word of the U.S. government was that there was probably a conspiracy and there were at least 4 shots fired at Kennedy, but somehow that just has not really been reported to anybody.
I know, and they knew that Kennedy was going to be, you know, elected. I mean, he was so popular. Hands down.
64% approval rating at the end of '63. He was a shoo-in for '64. Oh, and by the way, in the same week that he was assassinated in Dallas, one of the Dallas papers ran a story that said Johnson would probably be dropped from the ticket in 1964. So this not only was the last chance for the people that wanted to get to Kennedy, but it was the last chance for Lyndon Johnson.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So according to your father, he knew that the power that resulted in the assassination went right up to Lyndon Johnson. Right?
That's right. He wrote out a document that he called the chain of command. He sketched it out for me, and at the very top there was LBJ.
Right.
And below that there was Cord Meyer, Dave Phillips, and below that there was Bill Harvey. Below that David Morales, and then below that the French gunman.
Right.
Have you seen that document?
No.
Yeah, I have that all here.
Great. We'll take a look at that.
Yeah, and you can have copies of it too.
But here's what you have to understand. Johnson, as powerful as he was very much under the control of people even more powerful. For example, in his administration, he had his 16 wise men, who included Dean Rusk and McNamara, this bunch, and Averill Harriman.
Yeah.
And they were. It was written about at the time. They were the brains behind Lyndon Johnson. Every single one of them was a ranking member of the Council on Foreign Relations.